Hi, I'm Danny with Auto & Sons. Welcome to my backyard here. I wanted to shoot this video for you guys to show you how to take care of your pruners. We're getting into pruning season and it's important to have a well-maintained set of clippers going in to start doing all your pruning work, whether it's on your orchard or your rose garden or your bushes or whatever that might be. So I'm going to talk today about the Felco pruners, but this goes for any set of pruners. We'll also go into some basic repairs and how to take these apart if you say chip a blade or break a blade or break any other part of these or they just fall apart on you. And so we'll zoom in here, get some close-up work on kind of how to take them apart, how to put them back together. It's very simple. If you bought the pruners, it came with all the tools you need to take them apart and put them back together. So that'll be nice to just go through that. And then also we'll talk about basic sharpening of the pruners, as well as how to maintain them in season and what to do just to make sure they stay at tip-top condition while you're going through. So let's zoom in here to the workbench and talk about where to get started. Okay, so here we are with our Felco pruners. We've got our number 2s here that need a little repair that I'm going to show you how to do. Unfortunately, we can't do the whole repair because it takes some more work than what we can do on this workbench here, but I'll show you how to do everything except for the hammering part, because hammering doesn't work on my nice table. My wife would be very mad at me. So we're not going to do that part, but I'll show you how to do everything except for that. And then here's my personal pair. This is a broken pair that we had a customer drop off. So I wanted to show you just the difference in kind of layout and things like that. So this is a number 2, this is a number 8. All Felcos have a number on them right here in the back side that tell you what the model is. That's important if you need to buy replacement parts. So you need to know what number you have so you can buy replacement parts, and we'll talk about those in a minute. You can see that generally they're built very similar. They have this locking mechanism in the middle, or this is kind of the pivot point nut, and it has a lock on it so that nut doesn't move. And then this is the blade lock, so let's talk about that. So to use Felco pruners, we want to have our thumb on the side with all this fancy stuff going on. You can see the other side's got a lot less going on. And what we do is we pull that, and that should easily open, and then we have the pruner should open and close. We want them to move slowly. You'll see these are kind of jumping a little bit. They're not moving as smoothly, so we're going to do a little service on these guys. I have not taken care of these at all this year, so they're very abused, so it's perfect timing to talk about how to take care of these before we need to go in and start pruning in the rose garden and do our orchard, which is right over there. So, so there's the lock. Should be your thumb that you use. This is the right-handed pair of clippers. These are built for right-handed people. Your thumb should be on top so you can easily move that back and forth. If you get a new pair and that's not moving as easy as you'd like, a little bit of lubrication on this whole mechanism here should clean that right up, and it should work. If it still won't move, this screw right here, this bolt might be over tightened, and you can give it a little bit of a loosening, and then this will definitely move, no problem then. So so let's talk, before we talk about how to fix them, like I said on these ones have a broken part here. You can see that this part is broken off. We'll talk about how to kind of take the whole thing apart if we wanted to get at that. And so so we're going to set those aside just for a moment. So here is our basic pruner kind of tutorial, I guess, on how to take care of your pruners in season. So first of all, we want to try and keep them well lubricated. So I am going to put down a towel underneath my pruners here so that I don't get grease all over my table, which is always a good thing. So we want to keep this whole thing well lubricated. So WD-40 that everybody's very familiar with can be a good choice here. It's not the best lubricant, but it does a pretty good job of keeping your pruners from rusting. That's a very good thing. A lot of this in here is steel, so if you leave them out in the rain or the sprinklers go off on them, they will rust. So we want to keep the water off of them. WD-40 does a great job of making sure that the water disperses. WD, water dispersal agent. Keep all the water out of the mechanism, so WD-40 can be a great thing there. Also, if we want to go with a little bit more lubricant, Felco has their own lubricant spray. There's lots of multi-purpose lightweight lubricating oils that can also be used, or silicone-based products that can also be used for lubricating. So I'm going to give it a quick spritz with this stuff just to kind of get the process going here, and that'll help penetrate in all the screws and things like that, and help loosen up any of the junk that's stuck on my clippers. Hopefully help with that sticking. Oh, I missed the spring. I'm going to give the spring a little bit extra here. So the next up, so we're going to kind of give that a little work. That's already moving a lot easier than it was. We're going to open them up, and some people really like this to all stay nice and shiny and clean. It doesn't bother me as much, but a wire brush can be very helpful if you have chunks of rows and old stems and stuff and you really want to start off shiny. You can give them a whole work down with a wire brush. We have these in the garden shop. They're good for also doing some specific cleanup work on roses and things like that. So we have these in the garden shop if you are dying to have your own little, hopefully it looks better than this. This has been well used. But you can give them a little scrub up here and there if you want to really polish them up and make them shine before you get going. You're more than welcome to do that. The roses don't care how shiny your pruners are, however, but one thing they do care about is how well the blade is sharpened. So these are what's called a bypass pruner. So when they cut, the two blades go by each other. And that's what we want to use when we're pruning plant material. We're going to have this bypass pruner. There's another type of pruner on the market that's called an Anvil Pruner. They're cheaper to make and they're not as precise, but they also, one of the bad things they do in the garden is that they can smash the branch. So they go like this, the cutting blade comes in, it hits a flat surface, and that can smash the branch on both sides when you're kind of squeezing it in. So we don't like those anvil types. They're generally, like I said, a lot cheaper than the bypass, a lot more durable. However, they're not the best for keeping your plant stem and making a nice clean cut and keeping high quality branches. So this is bypass. So the reason I'm talking about bypass is because half of this blade is completely flat, this side, and then this side is tapered, which is where the cutting edge is built, okay? So, and then this, the bypass area, this is also completely flat. So we're gonna have this flat, this needs to be flat, and this part needs to be flat so that when we go down, we have a nice, thin, no clearance, very thin clearance section so that it doesn't end up pinching the branch. We've all done that where you cut down and it doesn't actually cut and it kind of gets caught in that gap and it just doesn't quite come off and all that. That's because something is bent in here and doesn't quite, something's not lining up or there's too much space, right? And we'll talk about how to fix that here in a moment. Okay, so sharpening is what I'm leading up to, I guess. And when we sharpen, we take this side that has the taper, and you'll see flat side here, tapered side here. You'll see that, and we're gonna sharpen it. Now, it's not like a kitchen knife where we have a whole whetstone and the whole deal. You can do that if you really want to take the whole thing apart and start out and really get the whole thing honed in if that's what you want to do. And I'll show you how to take the blade off in a minute. But in order to use a whetstone or a dry stone or things like that, you have to take the whole clipper apart, and that's not something we're always going to do. So what can we do when we are pruning or in this type of situation before we start pruning is we can use what's called a little carbide sharpener. And these are by Felco. There's two different sizes. I'm going to use the bigger one here, and well, I guess they're not. It doesn't say Felco on here, but this might be one of their other brands. I'm not sure, but I'm going to use this bigger one here, and has the sharpening side, and then this is also a flat side for grinding, for taking out burrs and things. I'll show you how to use that in a moment. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our pruners, we're going to hold by the cutting side, so this blade is attached to this handle, so we're going to hold that. And then we are going to take this side here that has the taper, we come in here down low, and we kind of work it across the blade like this, and we just give it a couple swipes at an angle. And there's a nice kind of angle built in here on the sharpener, so you kind of know what angle you're supposed to be at. You just give it a couple swipes, you'll notice it'll start getting shiny. Give it the old finger test, I guess. Oh yeah, that's nice and sharp. Okay, so that's good. I'm gonna give it a little bit more down in here where you do most of the cutting. It usually dulls the most down here, and then this is not that bad. Over time though, we can kind of wear out our blades doing this because you are removing material from the blade, right, as you do this. So you'll see, especially on heavily used pruners, that this blade gets smaller and smaller, and that's when we need to replace it. Okay, so we're gonna call that good for the sharpening of the sharp part, and I can already feel that's much sharper. These last forever until you lose them, so once you buy one, as long as you don't lose it, it'll last forever. They're not cheap, but they work really, really well. Simple tool that works great. This side, if you do get a burr on this side, we generally don't end up touching this side up at all, but if, let's say we cut a wire on accident or a rock or something like that, we're cutting roots and we cut a rock, and you get a chunk in this side, one, we can replace it, or two, we can try and fix it. That's what this side of the sharpener's for. We can give this just a gentle little, you know, smoothing out. I don't really need to do a lot of work on mine because this is doing pretty good still. So you can give it a little buffing out if it needs it. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to mess it up. Once again, if we wear this out, we're going to get more of that pinching. Then we're going to have to replace this. Same thing for this side. If we have a burr on this blade, on the cutting blade, we can come in here with the flat side and we can give it a nice little work, and that will help take out any burrs or things like that and make sure that we end up with a nice even cutting edge. I can see as I'm doing this and I'm keeping it nice and flat on the blade, you can see that it's actually shining up that little section right there. That means I kind of had a little bend to my blade, and so this is actually helping kind of smooth that out a little bit. And there we go. Okay, so that's plenty of that there. So kind of nice. Wipe the oil off it so it's good to go for next time. And that's pretty much it for sharpening. Okay, so at this point, give them a wipe down. The oil's definitely seeped in enough by now. Give them a wipe down. Make sure they're all pretty. And that means we're good to go for this year. So now what I want to do, so now we should just give them a try. Ah, yes, see, no more of that sticking. They're bouncing back and forth very quickly. No problem at all there. Okay, so I got a little extra oil there. That's it. So in that case, I would say these are done. Put them away in our scabbard and they're ready to go. So I'm not going to take apart this pair because this pair is perfectly fine and doesn't need to be taken apart at all, but this one does. So let's talk about the components of our clipper. So we have the spring here. So we have the thumb lock. If we lose that, we have those. You can purchase those if you need them, if you lose the thumb lock. We also have these springs. This is probably the most likely thing that's going to pop off for you throughout the season. These springs pop off occasionally. Pruners do not work well without the spring. If you do have a pair of pruners without the spring, they're going to be far more functional with a spring, and you're going to save yourself a lot of effort. So I always like to have at least one extra spring around, because when you lose this thing in the trash, it's really a bummer. So we want to do that, and it comes off very simply. It just sticks on these two little pegs. You stick one side in, you kind of pull back on the spring, you stick the other side in, make sure it seats, and you're good to go. Okay, so we're going to pull that off because we're going to take this whole thing apart. Pull it off, we'll set it right there. So this funny looking mechanism going on here, this is all just to control the pivot point and make sure that we keep this bolt on and it doesn't fall off. Cheaper pruners, you can see here, here's my Corona loppers that are definitely cheaper than my Felco clippers. Just use a lock bolt, or sorry, a lock nut on a normal bolt to maintain that. Now this lock nut can work its way off this bolt over time, and you end up with more flex in this than you'd like. So we don't really want to have a lot of movement there. You can kind of see even on these that they're moving a little bit. So this needs to get tightened. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it apart. So where's my little wrench? Where'd it go? Here we go. Okay, so this little tool came with your Felco pruners. If you have it, it might be in your junk drawer, or it might be lost. Either way, I'm going to use this. You can also just use a flat-bladed screwdriver for this. So we're going to loosen this bolt right here. Okay. Just going to loosen that up, pull that out. This is simply here to lock this other bolt and this other nut in place. This is the lock mechanism. Take that off. This, see how this is too loose. This should be finger tight, so it should just come right off. If it's not, it's got some edges on there, so you can use a pair of pliers if you need to, or a box-ended wrench to pull that off. This is simply the fancy washer that sits on here. This just lifts off, and here's our replacement part. So you would pound out these little rivets that are in here. I can't do that here, but you'd use an awl, which is something you use to pop out rivets, and a hammer, pop these rivets out. This one's being particularly challenging. You see I had to get a grinder in here to get these ones out. These ones are also not coming out nicely, but they will, I promise. And you pop those little guys back in, and you can see that there's a replacement part. So pretty much everything on this pruner is replaceable besides the handles, right? So we have replacement blades, replacement springs, replacement bypass sections, and all the replacement screws. So that's all replaceable. So the blade, if you want to do a super job on sharpening, you can take the blade off. You can do all of this. You can pull this off. You can get your sharpening out. You can really hone in that blade if that's what you want to do. What I did is probably sufficient, but if you want to really get it sharp and just be laser cutting through those branches, absolutely. There's a little bit of grease in here in the middle, so be careful. I just got some on my finger there. I don't really want to mess that up. You can put some more grease in there if you want. Probably not necessary. Your lubricant should be sufficient, but there is some heavier grease that comes with the pruners that's down there in the middle. So we've taken it all apart. To put it back together, you simply do the opposite of what we just did. You put that on there, put our washer back on, put our nut back on the pivot, make sure we get it on there straight. We want it finger tight, but we do want it tight. And then we want to get our lock mechanism on there. So we get the lock on there, we put this back on, this bolt goes in that hole, and we tighten it down. If any of this is giving you a hard time, it should all be pretty simple and loose. If it's giving you a hard time, give it a squirt down with some liquid wrench, let it sit overnight, and try it the next day. If it's getting really stuck, you're welcome to come to one of our Rose Care classes in January, and Timmy will be there, or somebody will be there, if you're lucky enough to get Timmy, and he will do it for you. So now we can feel, we want to feel this, and we want to, it should move nicely and it shouldn't catch on anything. So I actually think that this is okay. This is a good tightness. It might be slightly over tightened, but it'll probably be okay for this once we get a little bit of lubricant on here. I think you just need to get a little bit more lubricant, and this blade's a little messed up. So, so it's probably okay. That's it. Put our spring back on. We want to make sure that when we wiggle them like this, we push this handle this way and this handle this way, that there's no real wiggle in there. It's nice and tight. Otherwise, we'll pinch our branches. We put our spring back on. Give it a go with the spring. Yes, they work very, very nicely. Make sure our lock works, and that's it. So, so that's how to take them apart and put them back together. That's also how to sharpen them and make sure that they are ready to go for this year. And now we are all set. So if you have any questions, please comment below. I really appreciate you watching, and look forward to seeing your garden this spring. Have a great day.